EA Sports has dropped all their Madden 25 player and team ratings. And in this video, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to react and give you my thoughts on EA Sports Madden 25 player ratings. I really love the promotion by EA Sports. They put out lists of top 10s at each and every position from quarterback to cornerback. So in this video, I'm going to react not only to the top 10s at every position and tell you which names belong, which names don't belong, what they got right, what they got wrong, but also team overalls, offense overalls, defense overalls, and overall top 10 teams in the NFL. So a lot of content in this video, a lot to discuss. Let me know in the comment section below what EA Sports got right at every position and what they got wrong, guys. Gronk spike the like button for more NFL reactions just like this. And let me know in the comments what you want me to react to next. Let's go, guys. Let's start it off with the quarterback position, and we're going to make our way through every position from quarterback to cornerback. Then we're going to take a look at the team units. So beginning with the quarterback position, Patrick Mahomes at 99 overall, first place, obviously belongs. Now, the top 100 does not think he is the best quarterback in the NFL. The peers did not think he was the best quarterback in the NFL last year. But EA Sports actually has the time to be able to see that he won the Super Bowl and had that great playoff run, which the players did not, obviously. We discussed that. So Patrick Mahomes at number 1, I agree. Lamar Jackson at number 2, I understand it because he won the MVP. He's coming off an MVP season, so it's totally understandable that he is at number 2. I think that for me personally, like entering next year, if I were to draft quarterbacks, I would go Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I think those are the top 4 quarterbacks clearly in the NFL. But I would have Josh Allen second. And this is the biggest dilemma I have with these ratings, is that Josh Allen and Joe Burrow are such a big gap from Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. There is no chance that anybody, any NFL team, any NFL player, any fan thinks that Lamar Jackson is 6 overall ratings better than Josh Allen. It's not real. It's not a real thing. Maybe you could argue there are some people that would rather have Lamar. There's some people that would rather have Allen. There's some people that would rather have Burrow. There's some people that would rather have Lamar, right? But they're not 6 overall in difference. If you're going to have Lamar at 98, Mahomes at 99, put Allen at 97. Put Burrow at 97. Put Burrow at 96 coming off an injury and put Allen at 97, right? Like, it shouldn't be that wide of a gap between these 4 quarterbacks because it really isn't that wide of a gap. We've seen Allen beat Mahomes. We've seen Mahomes beat Allen. We've seen Burrow beat Mahomes. We've seen Mahomes beat Burrow. We've seen Lamar beat Allen. We've seen Lamar beat Burrow. We've seen, well, actually, we haven't seen that matchup too many times, but you know what I mean, right? So to me, those are the top 4 quarterbacks in the league. They all have their own unique style, but they should all be closer in the ratings. At number 5, Dak Prescott is interesting because Dak had an excellent season last year. So simply based off of 2023, I don't hate that he is the 5th overall quarterback in their ratings. I don't hate it, right? He was, again, I've said it many times, he was second or first. I think he was first in touchdown passes, if I'm not mistaken. He was second in MVP votes. So that warrants a top 5 ranking if you're just basing it off of 2023. If you're basing it off of who would I rather have, right, in a full next season type of fantasy draft setting, I'd rather have Justin Herbert. I'm not going to lie about that. I'd rather have Matthew Stafford, who isn't even on the list. I don't know why Matthew Stafford just continues to be, and he's always underrated in Madden, just continues to be the most underrated quarterback of this generation. He won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. That's something that Dak Prescott has never even come close to sniffing. And if you watch the Rams over the last half of last season and even the beginning of the season, you could see how much Stafford was elevating that team that nobody thought was going to be any good. But it was because of Stafford that they were really that good, right? Stafford and McVay. They put them on the map last year. That offense was humming near the end of the year. He had a great playoff performance against Detroit. Just came up short, just by a little bit against the better team, right? Tua at number 6 is absolute a war crime. That should not exist. Tua is not the 6th best quarterback in the NFL in any way, shape, or form. Tua is not better than anybody, arguably, on this entire list. I would rather have Brock Purdy than Tua. I think Brock Purdy does a better job extending plays. I think Brock Purdy is better at overcoming offensive line deficiencies. I think Brock Purdy overall has shown more clutch ability. Even in the Super Bowl, a game that he didn't play amazing, I thought that he showed a lot of toughness in that game. Right? I'd rather have Brock Purdy. Jalen Hurts has shown more upside than Tua, although you could argue that Tua played better last year. That's fine. I think that Justin Herbert it's not even close. Justin Herbert is a better player than Tua. This is back-to-back. We've seen it in the top 100. We've seen it on EA Sports Madden 25 that Tua is rated higher than Justin Herbert, which is absolutely insane. If anybody watches both players, you just understand what I'm talking about. I don't even really have to get into it, right? Kirk Cousins being in the top 10 is interesting. Again, Cousins had a great year when he played last year. It's just that he got injured and he's coming off a major injury. I probably wouldn't have him there. Now, the guys that they're missing CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's already a top 10 quarterback. You might not have him as high as I do, which is like 5th or 6th, but I think he's pretty obviously a top 10 quarterback, especially entering next year, the 10 quarterbacks that you would take first. Stroud's probably in that conversation. Jordan Love is somebody that's probably flirting with this top 10. I think there's many out there that would take Jordan Love over Tua. I think there's many out there that might take Jordan Love over Dak. I think that might be a 50-50 conversation. I think some people would take Jordan Love over Kirk Cousins, especially off an Achilles, right? Aaron Rodgers, obviously being the all-timer that he is, I'm a little bit surprised that he is not rated high, right? Because usually great players, like all-time great players, always have a good rating in FIFA, right? Madden, NHL. It doesn't really matter the game, 2K even. They usually have like just a legacy score. They never get below a certain number, right? Well, for Rodgers, that isn't the case this year. He's not even in the top 10 quarterbacks. I might throw him in there for Madden just because he's Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, it's a difference between Madden and like what I would actually, who I would actually take on my team this year. There is a little difference there in the, because you want people to, a lot of people are going to want to play as Aaron Rodgers, right? So Aaron Rodgers, he's supposed to be good in the game. You know what I mean? Jared Goff, he's also somebody that I would consider for this list above guys like Tua. I like Goff more than Tua. Again, I'm not a Tua guy. Jalen Hurts, I thought he played better than Jalen Hurts last year. I thought that he's better than Kirk Cousins entering next year. If I were to take a quarterback, him or Cousins, I'd take Goff. I think Goff's got a stronger arm. I think they both play from the pocket. Goff is tougher, in my opinion, in the pocket. I think Cousins is more accurate. I think he makes better decisions. But I think Goff, last year, big-time ball, he really didn't fade. So I think Goff, Rodgers, Love, Stroud all deserve to be in the conversation of this list. I would obviously take Tua out. I'd move Dak down. I'd move Hurts out of this conversation. I'd move Cousins out of this conversation. So they have 3 players I probably wouldn't have on my list. Now to the running back position. We've got the top 10 running backs. Christian McCaffrey at number 1 is obvious, 99 overall and cover man of Madden 25. So that is, obvious. Offensive player of the year. Borderline MVP last year. I think you could have argued that he was the MVP. And honestly, like, he maybe could have won the MVP. I mean, based on like the quarterback not having the greatest statistics in Lamar Jackson, right? Not being overly blown away by a quarterback. Why not give it to the guy that was clearly the best player at his position, right? They gave him the offensive player of the year as like a little nice pat on the back, right? But like 23 touchdowns, led the NFL in rushing yards. He definitely could have won the MVP. Best offense in the league, best offense in passing, best offense in rushing. Like, he could have definitely won MVP. Nick Chubb at number 2 is interesting because he is coming off of an injury. I think Nick Chubb is obviously awesome. It's just kind of interesting that he is number 2. Derrick Henry at number 3 makes sense. It's fine. Saquon Barkley at number 4, I'm not really going to get mad at. It's Joe Mixon at number 5 that's a little puzzling to me. Like, I really like Joe Mixon, don't get me wrong, but this feels like a rating that's almost a couple years too late. Like, Joe Mixon was really good a few years ago, but I mean, now he's on a new team. The Bengals didn't keep him around because he's aging. He's getting a little bit less explosive than he used to be. He's still a good player, but I mean, fifth best running back in the NFL. I don't think anybody thinks Joe Mixon's the fifth best running back in the NFL. I don't even think the Texans think that. Travis Etienne had a really good year last year based on production, pass catching, rushing. He had a really good year last year, so I kind of understand why he's in that conversation. Josh Jacobs had an excellent 2022, a down year in 2023. If he's in your top 10, I don't think that's crazy. Kenneth Walker, super talented runner. Love his style. Think he's, really explosive. A lot of fun to watch. Great, stop-start ability, jump cut ability. Aaron Jones, phenomenal when he played last year, has dealt with injuries. I don't think Isaiah Pacheco's a top 10 running back in the NFL. I think he's like a top 18, top 19, top 20. Like, he's around that range for me. I don't think he's top 10. There's a number of running backs I would have probably included in this list, right? You guys have seen my running back rankings. I think Breece Hall is criminally underrated by the NFL right now. He's a do-it-all running back that can catch 70 passes in a year. He's probably going to have a massive season this year, and that's why he's going so high in fantasy. Bijan Robinson, just from a talent standpoint, probably belongs on this list, right? He's got power, he's got speed, he's got quickness. He's tough to bring down. He's an excellent soft hands pass catcher. He runs good routes. He can play on all three downs. Bijan Robinson, top 10 running back in terms of talent, right? Kyron Williams had a phenomenal year last year. He's a 3-down running back. I think he's underrated as a pass catcher. Really good in between the tackles. Really good after contact. He's a good player. Jahmyr Gibbs is arguably a top 10 running back. I mean, the explosiveness, the stop-start ability, the ability to explode, pass catching, those areas he's really good. James Cook, I think, is arguably a top 10 running back. Very good vision, very good explosiveness. James Conner had an amazing year last year. He's also somebody that you have to consider for this list. So for me, there's a ton of running backs I would have considered. The guys that I would have taken out, Joe Mixon, Travis Etienne, although that's a debatable one. Josh Jacobs, just based on how he played last year. Kenneth Walker, I don't think is quite top 10 from an all-around standpoint. Aaron Jones, I would not have because of injury and age, and Isaiah Pacheco clearly. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5, right? So 5 or 6. So I strongly disagree with this top 10, but you guys let me know what you think about the running back list. Wide receivers. I actually think this is one of their better ratings so far. They've got Tyreek Hill at number 1, Justin Jefferson at number 2, the way it should be. Both players are amazing, right? A.J. Brown at number 4 and CeeDee Lamb at number 3. CeeDee Lamb deserves to be number 3, 100%. I would have Jamar Chase at number 4, but I understand having A.J. Brown at number 4. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't hate that, right? Jamar Chase, to me, I think when Burrow's playing and he's on his game, I mean, there are a few guys that are more unstoppable at all 3 levels. Yards after catch, speed, size, hands, all of it, right? A.J. Brown and Chase, I think, are debatable at 4 and 5. I would move Amon-Ra down. I think Adams is fine anywhere from 9 to 6 in that range. That's fine. Amon-Ra deserves to be in the top 10 though, so I don't hate the ranking. I just think he's a little bit too high, especially over Jamar Chase. I think that's a little crazy. Stephon Diggs at number 8 is probably the guy that I would remove from the list, but he's the only one that I would remove from the list, especially considering, going into 2024, I would not have Stephon Diggs on my list just because, he's in a crowded receiver room. His production over the back half of the season with Buffalo is not very good. There's a number of receivers that I think are better than Stephon Diggs. Puka Nacua, just based on his rookie season, had a historic season, right? Most receptions for a rookie ever, most yards for a rookie ever in a season, most yards in a playoff game ever. So, and that's better than Odell, that's better than Randy Moss, that's better than Justin Jefferson, right? Those are incredibly big names. So Puka Nacua over Diggs for me, probably in my top 10, but Nico Collins is another name that I think deserves recognition. DJ Moore had an amazing year last year, best of his career. I think he is slept on by a majority of people. He wasn't on the top 100. Nico Collins wasn't either. And Jalen Waddle, the Penguin, he also probably in that range as well, but I would have Nacua or probably DJ Moore on that list over Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. Ayuk and Evans, Evans probably obviously going to be on that list. He's kind of like Devontae Adams. He's basically a legend, right? Ayuk, I'm happy they actually included him, though. I'm very happy about that one. The tight end position, we've got Travis Kelce, first place. That's fine. I don't think he's 99 overall, though. I think his overall is too high. That's just my opinion. I don't think he's a 99 overall player anymore. I think that evidence came in the regular season. He was amazing in the postseason, but I think he definitely dipped in the regular season. His play was not the same. I also expect with his age just not to be the same player overall. George Kittle at number 2 is correct. Not going to hate on that. And he's also close to Travis Kelce, right? So that makes sense. Mark Andrews at number 3 is fine. I'm not really going to go crazy about that. I think Sam Laporta is underrated at 7th place. I think he should be in the top 3 to 5 tight ends. Had a great rookie season, one of the best tight end rookie seasons I've ever seen. TJ Hawkinson deserves to be up there, so I don't hate that. David Njoku, that's fine. Evan Ingram had an amazing year. He had like 110 catches last year, maybe even more than that. Dallas Goedert at 8. I mean, okay, that's not crazy. Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet. I would just remove Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet. I would keep everybody else, and I'd add Trey McBride, who had an amazing year last year, and I think he's going to really have a huge year in 2024 with Kyler Murray for the entire year. I mean, McBride had 800-plus yards and 80-plus catches. Not many tight ends this year had that, right? So McBride's on the rise. Dalton Kincaid's another one that I would give a quick shout. I think, he is going to have a huge year. But if I didn't go with Dalton Kincaid, I might go with Kyle Pitts as well, who from a talent standpoint, an overall standpoint, is probably still, above Dalton Schultz, above Cole Kmet, in my opinion, right? I'd have Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet, closer to 15 than I would 9 and 10. That's just my opinion, though. You guys let me know what you think of the tight ends. I think overall, not bad. I'd move up Laporta. I'd have McBride, Kincaid, or Pitts in the list. The top 3 is fine. So, yeah, the tight end's not bad. Next up, offensive linemen. This might be their best list. Like, this is very nitpicky for me. Like, Trent Williams is obviously first. Zach Martin, you could argue, is still the best guard in football. Although, I think Chris Lindstrom might have surpassed him at this point. But Zach Martin is, like, Hall of Fame, right? Like, he's, like, all-pro every year of his career type of guy. So, him being second is fine. Penei Sewell being third makes sense to me. Lane Johnson at 4, that also makes sense. That's fine. Tyron Smith above Tristan Wirfs is maybe a little bit crazy just because of the age, and Wirfs has been like amazing since entering the NFL. I'd have Wirfs in my top 5. If they just swap Tyron Smith and Wirfs, I'd be totally cool with that. I think Lindstrom, would be a little bit higher for me. Martin maybe a little bit down for me. But otherwise, I mean, Ragnow and Humphrey being the best centers in the game, that makes total sense. So them being in the top 10 is fair. And Laramie Tunsil is an incredible player too. The other guys that could have made the list, Andrew Thomas of the Giants, Jordan Mailata of the Eagles, Christian Darrisaw of the Vikings. If I were to put one player in this list that isn't on the list, it'd probably be Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney or maybe Jordan Mailata. One of those two. But I think overall, that might be their best, most complete list. I think they did a really good job with that one. The top 10 defensive linemen. This one is kind of half good and half bad. Chris Jones being first is great. Dexter Lawrence being second makes a lot of sense. Quinnen Williams being third. I think those are obvious. After that, I think that it's a little bit iffy. I think Cameron Jordan, first of all, being an interior defensive lineman is a little odd. I'm not sure why he is listed as an interior defensive lineman. I don't think that he played more snaps in the interior than he did on the edge last season. And if you were to check that by a statistic, I think that's almost a fact. So I don't know why he's even on the list. And even if he were an interior defensive lineman, is he better than DeForest Buckner? Is he better than Jalen Carter? Is he better than Jeff Simmons? Is he better than Kenny Clark? Is he better than Christian Barmore? No, he's better than none of those guys. He's not washed, but he's not the same player he used to be. Christian Wilkins, I think, should be higher. That's one that I think he should be like 4 or 5 or 6. Cam Hayward, I would take off the list. I still think Cam Hayward is a good player, and I've said that a few times this offseason. I think that a lot of people have been hating on him and taking him out of the top 100 conversation because he was injured last year and he's older. But I would remove him from the list. He's more of like the 10 to 15 range for me in the interior defensive lineman. Not having DeForest Buckner, Jalen Carter, Jeff Simmons, Kenny Clark, Christian Barmore, those 5, any of those 5 could be on this list. I think that especially DeForest Buckner, I don't understand the hate for him at this point. Jalen Carter, from a projection standpoint, probably belongs on this list. And Jeff Simmons, from a consistency standpoint, probably belongs on this list. I would take Vita Vea off the list. Although I do love Vita Vea, I would take Cameron Hayward off the list. I'd move Justin Madubuike down. I think Derek Brown's in a perfect spot. Christian Wilkins would move up. Cam Jordan would move off. So that's the way I look at it. I think that overall, the top 3 is correct. I feel like 4 is maybe a little bit too high. 5 is fine. And then the rest of the list is a little bit iffy. Wilkins should just move up. I don't really understand the Hayward, Vea, Cam Jordan thing, but I don't know, whatever. Next up, we've got the top 10 edge rushers in the NFL. This one isn't bad. I mean, it's really hard to mess this one up because there's like 5 to 6 extremely obvious names that belong on the list. And this list, actually from, looking at my edge rush list, my top 10, it has 8 out of the 10 names. The only names on here that aren't in my top 10 are DeMarcus Lawrence and Alex Highsmith, who were both in my top 20, but not my top 10. The guys that should be on this list without a shadow of a doubt are Aiden Hutchinson and Danielle Hunter. It's not even a question. Both those players should be on this list over DeMarcus Lawrence and Alex Highsmith. Khalil Mack can still be on the list. That's fine. Trey Hendrickson should be higher than he is. But otherwise, you can't really debate the list. I mean, Myles Garrett is an absolute beast. He's a defensive player of the year. So having him, as the best edge rusher, 99, is fine. I would have Watt above Parsons. I think, Parsons above Watt is a little iffy. Crosby and Parsons are debatable. And then Nick Bosa at 5, I think, feels right. Then you've got Hines, Allen. I think the next group is like Hutchinson, Hendrickson, and Allen. That's the next group that I would have. And then I'd have the older guys, Mack and Hunter, at 9 and 10, in whichever order you want. Highsmith's overrated on this game, and DeMarcus Lawrence is overrated on this game. Otherwise, I think they did a decent job. But yeah, and the other name that came to mind that could be on this list is Rashawn Gary. I'd rather have Rashawn Gary than Alex Highsmith or DeMarcus Lawrence, but that's just me. So that's my top 10 for the edge rushers. Next up, the top 10 linebackers, which is always a tricky one because people don't know really how to evaluate linebackers, in my opinion. At number 1, Fred Warner. I'm not really going to debate it, although I would just have Roquan Smith higher. That's just my opinion, though. They're both very close. I think they're 1 and 2 without a doubt. At number 3, Demario Davis. That is probably correct. At number 4, Levante David. That is respectful, right? I think that's fair. At number 5, CJ Mosley. I like that ranking a lot. A lot of people forget about CJ Mosley overall as a player. I think that is wrong when they do. Alua Khan's probably a little overrated, although I would not say that he's not a top 10 linebacker. Dre Greenlaw, he is injured, but I think he is a top 10 linebacker. Matt Milano, I think that's correct. Now, when it comes to Bobby Wagner and Bobby Okereke, I think I'd probably remove both of those guys from the list and add a couple guys. Okereke is probably, like maybe a couple spots too high. He's probably like the 12th best linebacker in the league. I think Quincy Williams deserves to be on this list. Probably even over like Alua Khan, who's at number 6. I think that other guys that could debatably be on the list, Frankie Louvu, Ernest Jones, and Patrick Queen. Those guys could debatably be on the list. I would take them all over Bobby Wagner. I think Bobby Wagner continuously is the overrated player on these rankings, these ratings, everything. I mean, he's been on 3 teams in the last 4 years. Like, the NFL does not see Bobby Wagner the same way you guys see Bobby Wagner. He's not the same player he used to be, okay? Still good. Still a starting linebacker, but not in the top 10, okay? He's not top 100 either, okay? So, yeah, I would have Quincy Williams for sure, and then the other guys I just give a shout, Louvu, Jones, and Queen. Next up, the safeties. Jesse Bates at number 1 is interesting. I don't hate it. I think he's the best free safety in the NFL. And if you compare his career to Winfield, Fitzpatrick, right, and then probably the other guy that's widely considered the best safety in football is Kyle Hamilton, who ranks all the way down at 8th, which is insane. But if you career-wise, Bates is better than Winfield and Hamilton, who are like the 3 best safeties in the league, in my opinion. So Bates being at 1 is not crazy. Although I would argue that Bates and Winfield being at 1 and 2 is fine. Hamilton at 8 is insane. Like, him being below Kevin Byard and Tyrann Mathieu and Derwin James is a crime against humanity. Like, Kyle Shanahan called Kyle Hamilton the best safety in the NFL. So that's all you really have to know, right? Like, that's all you really have to know is that Kyle Shanahan thinks he's the best safety in the NFL. Now, the guys that should be on this list that are not, Xavier McKinney should be on this list over Kevin Byard, who's older and slowing down. Kind of like the Bobby Wagner of the safety list. Hufanga shouldn't be on the list just because he was hurt. I would probably put Marcus Williams or Kyle Duggar over him. Otherwise, I mean, I don't hate the list. I think that it's fine. I think Budda Baker is probably a little bit too high for my liking. Tyrann Mathieu is like 5 spots, 6 spots too high. Javon Holland is too low. Javon Holland should be in the top 5 or 6. I think Fitzpatrick being in the top 5 is fine. Derwin James, just based on his overall consistency, he should be in the top 10, but I don't think he should be that high. So overall, I don't hate it. It's just a few things. Definitely Hamilton is too low, though, and McKinney definitely should be on the list. Marcus Williams should probably be on the list, too. So those are the top 10 safeties. Next up, we have the top 10 corners, which is always very controversial, but I actually felt like they did a pretty good job on this list. Sauce Gardner should be first. I agree with that. Jalen Ramsey at second, I think, is wrong. I don't know why people don't give Denzel Ward the love, but I honestly think Denzel Ward is probably the second best corner in the league, like overall, especially when it comes to man coverage. I think Denzel Ward is sick. So I would have Denzel Ward higher. I think Jalen Ramsey and Pat Surtain, I'd move a couple spots down. Alexander being on the list makes sense. I just think he didn't, he's just been inconsistent. So I'd move him down a little bit. Snead at 5, I like the respect. McDuffie being on the list is accurate. Charvarius Ward being around the 6th best corner is probably pretty accurate. Marlon Humphrey is probably a little bit too high. Marshawn Lattimore has just dealt with too many injuries. You'd probably want to take him out. The guy that clearly deserves to be on this list is Jalen Johnson. I mean, Jalen Johnson not being on this list is a crime against Madden, period, right? Other guys that I think are close, Trayvon Diggs, he was injured though. Devin Witherspoon, who I just continuously going to knock that door. Like, Devin Witherspoon is a stud. Derek Stingley, I think, will make his way on this list, although I understand he's not on this list for a reason. AJ Terrell is another one that comes to mind. But those are top 10 corners. I think overall it's a good list. I think it's the right names. It's just maybe in the wrong order. I would move Snead above Alexander and Surtain. I'd move Ramsey down. I'd move Denzel up. I'd probably keep Charvarius there. McDuffie, I'd probably move up. Humphrey and Lattimore would be maybe the guys I take off the list. I'd probably pick one to keep on the list and one off, and I'd include Jalen Johnson in my top 5. But otherwise, I think that's good. And then we've got the fastest players in Madden 25, which this is really interesting. The one name that came to mind who's not on this list is Raheem Mostert. I don't understand why Raheem Mostert's not on this list. He's literally an Olympic-level sprinter, or at least was. So just for that fact alone, I think he should be on this list. Right? Like, he's probably faster than Rashid Shaheed. But the other thing that's crazy is that Xavier Worthy is only 98, and that he's not 99, when he had the fastest 40-yard dash in NFL history. He should probably be 99, and he should probably be tied with Tyreek Hill, and he should be second. Right? Jameson Williams, I think it's just an alphabetical order. So it's not like he's above Worthy. They're the same. It's just that it's alphabetical order. And then you've got all the 97s in alphabetical order, which is fine. I didn't actually think Tariq Woolen was that fast. I guess his 40 was extremely fast, but when watching him, he doesn't feel faster than DK Metcalf, in my opinion. Like Christian Watson being on the list, that's dope. I like that. A-Shane being on the list is accurate. I would just have Raheem Mostert. That's probably it. I don't even really know who Tyler Harrell is, but yeah. And now let's get to the units. You guys let me know if I forgot any speedsters out there. Let's get to the units. So we've got the top 10 defenses in the NFL according to Madden rating. Now, based on overalls, I understand why the Niners are at 92, but I don't think anyone thinks the Niners are the best defense in the NFL. Could they be the best defense with improved coaching this year and health? Yes. But I don't think they'd be the best defense until the playoffs because I think Dre Greenlaw needs to come back and be healthy, and Hufanga needs to prove that he is healthy as well. So some caveats there. I understand from an overall standpoint with the amount of good players, like individually, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Hufanga, Charvarius Ward. I understand why they are that highly ranked. Baltimore at 90, based on last year, that makes sense. I think that based on the roster, they're not one that I would put second, like based on the individual talent. I just think they play very, very well as a cohesive whole. And they also have a wicked middle of the field defense, from Matabike to Roquan to Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams to Marlon Humphrey, right? That is just like the strongest middle of the field in football. Pittsburgh, I agree, they should be that high. I think they're absolutely loaded on defense this year, especially up front. Miami is insanely high. I mean, they're not a top 10 defense in any way, shape, or form. So I would not have them that high, although I do kind of understand why they're at 89, because when you think of the players in Madden, right, Kendall Fuller probably has a good rating. Holland obviously does have a good rating. Ramsey has a good rating, right? Jordan Poyer and Marcus May are on the team. That kind of bumps it up a little bit, although they're old, right? Their linebackers are solid. Chubb and Phillips probably have pretty good rankings. They're probably just outside the top 10 pass rushers, but they're injured. So that obviously strips away from their team. The only area they're probably weak in Madden is the defensive line, but then they added Calais Campbell, so that helps a little bit, especially Calais Campbell's got that, that ratings boost from being a legend. So I understand why they're 89. There's no way they're a top 10 defense. They're just not, especially with their pass rushers out. The Browns being 88 is crazy. I don't understand why the Browns aren't higher overall, because they really don't have any weaknesses on their defense. I mean, they probably are just underrating guys like Newsome, Emerson, Thornhill, Delpit, JOK. These guys are probably all underrated. You probably would look at their overalls and be like, they should be higher. They should be higher. They should be higher, right? Like, Zadarius Smith is probably fairly rated. Dalvin Tomlinson is probably fairly rated. I haven't seen their ratings. I'm just assuming. But they should be at least 90, 91, right? They were the best defense in the league last year against, in yards, so their overall should be higher. The Jets, they definitely should be higher. I mean, the Jets, again, they probably have some players that are a little bit underrated. Like we already saw, Quincy Williams is extremely underrated. DJ Reed is probably underrated on this game. Carter is probably underrated on this game. The D-line in general, right, is probably a little bit underrated on this game. I don't think Hassan Reddick was in the top 10, so he's probably maybe a little bit underrated. He's probably top 15-ish, right? So the Jets should be higher than the Dolphins for sure. The Cowboys at 87, that's fine. That's fine. The Chiefs at 86, that's fine. The Saints at 85, I actually don't hate that at all. They also got a lot of, veteran names. Like Cameron Jordan was on the top 10 interior defensive lineman. We already know he's not that good, but Chase Young probably has a pretty good ranking, right? Lattimore probably has a pretty good one. Tyrann Mathieu, right? We talked about that. Demario Davis, Willie Gay. They've got some big names on their defense, so it makes sense why they're at 85. The Patriots being on the list, thank you. Thank you for actually putting us on the list, which just goes to show, if you're on one of these lists and you rank the Patriots 32, when we will not see, I mean, what are the Commanders on defense? 72? Come on, bro. People be ranking the Patriots as the worst team in the league, and they got an 84 overall defense. What are we talking about here? But the defenses that I think could be on this list, the Texans, especially in terms of talent, I think the Texans probably deserve to be on this list, maybe above New Orleans, right? Or Miami, of course. The Raiders are one that are probably just outside, because I don't think a lot of people, individually speaking, they're probably not a great defense, but from an overall cohesive whole, they're a very good defense. The Bills are kind of the same thing. The Bills are also in this conversation. They're probably just outside. Overall, I think they mostly got the right defenses. I just think it's like the Dolphins don't belong, and then everybody else, I think the Jets should be higher, the Browns should be higher. The Ravens are fine, the Steelers are fine. The Niners are probably too high. The Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Patriots belong on the list. So, yeah, I think that's fair. And then the offenses, we've got the Chiefs at 92 overall, which I don't understand. Mahomes is 99, Kelsey's 99. That probably really uplifts their ranking. Pacheco's also overrated, as we've discussed. Tooney's probably pretty highly ranked. We know that Creed Humphrey is highly ranked. Trey Smith is probably pretty highly ranked. Their receivers might be a little bit overrated, I guess. Marquise Brown and stuff like that. But But like, I don't think, how could you not have the Niners offense first? Is it just because all their offensive linemen are like bad on the game other than Trent? Like, that must be the reason, because Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, those guys must all be 90 plus. Like, Kittle's like 97, Ayuk's 90 plus, McCaffrey's 99. Purdy's probably underrated. That's probably one of it in there, you know. But the Niners got to be higher than that. The Ravens are overrated. Their offensive line is not very good. I don't really understand why they're 91, other than having Lamar. I guess quarterback probably influences this pretty effectively, hey? The Eagles, 90. That's fair from a overall individual standpoint. The Bengals at 89. That makes sense. The Lions at 88. That makes sense. The Dolphins at 87, that's fine. The Cowboys, 86. I'm not even going to hate on that. I wouldn't have them in the top 10. I think they're just outside, but I don't hate that. The Texans at 85, I think should be higher. Right? They have 3 superstar receivers. They have Joe Mixon, who you had the 5th best running back in the league. Dalton Schultz, you had in the top 10 tight ends. CJ Stroud's underrated on your game, but otherwise, Laramie Tunsil was in your top 10 offensive lineman. Like, the Texans should be higher. Definitely. Definitely. The Browns at 84, there's no way they're a top 10 offense in the NFL. There's no way. There's no way, shape, or form. Like, not even close. They're not even close to a top 10 offense. They're better than the Rams on offense. They're better than the Bills. They're better than the Packers. No way, Jose. Okay, so, yeah. You guys know my offense rankings. I'd have the Niners first. Move the Chiefs down a little bit. Move the Ravens down a little bit. Prop up the Lions maybe a little. Definitely the Texans. But otherwise, again, not horrible. And the final one is the top 10 teams. And I'm just going to show you guys the graphic, because now that I'm on Owner's Box Fantasy and I'm running the NFL content over there, I'm also making TikToks, guys. I'm making short videos. So I actually reviewed this list on the Doing Football NFL TikTok. Doing Football NFL TikTok. So I'll put that link in the pinned comment and the description if you guys want to check out, probably just the pinned comment, if you guys want to check out my reaction to the top 10 teams on Madden 25. And I go pretty in-depth on it too. It's not just like a minute video. So yeah, go check that out, guys, if you want my opinion on that. Doing Football NFL. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Owner's Box Fantasy, because I'm running a lot of fantasy content, especially this season for them. And I'm excited for more content coming from me. And there's just more platforms coming for you guys and more different ways to get my voice out there. So yeah, Gronk spike the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already to the BLV. Exciting 2024 season coming, guys. Madden ratings, not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. Could have been better. You should have still called me, but it's okay. I forgive you. Thank you guys for watching. It's Mitch. Peace.